You know what's insane? The average American household now spends over $10,000 a year on groceries. And between 2025 and 2026, organic produce prices jumped another 10% in a single year. The food you're trying to eat clean is getting further out of reach every single month. But here's what nobody's saying out loud. You don't need a farm. You don't need a backyard. You don't even need a patch of dirt. You need 6 pots. Today I'm showing you 6 specific, research-backed crops you can grow in containers on a balcony, a patio, or a back deck and cut your grocery bill, with actual dollar figures attached. Stick around because crop number 4 carries a retail premium of over 125% in the organic category. It thrives in a pot that costs less than $15. And most people have no idea it even works in a container. I'll show you exactly how. And that final crop at the end? There's one mistake almost every grower makes with it. One mistake that kills the harvest. Don't skip it. Welcome to the Forgotten Harvest Vault. This channel exists for one reason, to pull the food knowledge that got quietly buried and put it back in your hands where it belongs. That's what we do here. If you're serious about taking back control over what your family eats and what you spend feeding them, hit subscribe right now. Every video we drop is built around one goal. Information that's actually useful when you walk away from the screen. Now, let's get into the list. Crop number 1. Fresh culinary herbs. Basil, mint, parsley. The stuff sitting in a plastic clamshell at the grocery store for $3 to $4 an ounce. You buy it. You use a handful. And by Thursday, the rest is brown slime in your refrigerator drawer. That's not bad luck. That's the economics of commercial herb production working directly against you. Here's what the numbers actually say. A single well-managed herb plant, one plant, in a 1 to 2 gallon pot, can produce between 100 packs and 165 packs per year. At $3 an ounce conventional, that's a replacement value of up to $300 per plant per year. At $4 an ounce organic, you're looking at up to $495. From one pot, 50 cents to $1 per plant to get started. Highest return on container space of any crop on this list. Nothing else comes close. Setup is simple. A 1 to 2 gallon pot is all you need. Mint thrives with 4 to 6 hours of daily light, one of the few productive food crops that works on low-light balconies and covered patios. Basil needs 6 to 8 hours of direct sun, the same sunlight threshold as tomatoes and peppers. Now here's what changes everything about how you manage these plants. Most people harvest herbs wrong. They pick from the bottom, let the plant grow tall and leggy, it flowers, turns bitter, and dies. What you need to do is pinch from the top. You're breaking what's called apical dominance. Remove the central growing tip, and the plant stops reaching up and starts pushing outward into lateral branches. One stem becomes 4, 4 becomes 8. Every correct pinch multiplies your harvest surface. With basil, it needs a nutrient-rich, well-drained substrate and 6 to 8 hours of direct light to stay productive. Beyond that, the moment you see a flower stalk forming, pull it off immediately. The second that plant shifts into seed production, the leaves turn woody and the flavor drops. Your job is to keep it believing it still needs to grow more leaves. That's the whole game. The same pinching principle applies to mint, but with one non-negotiable rule: isolated container only. Plant mint in shared soil and its underground runners, rhizomes, spread aggressively and destroy everything around it. Contained in a 10 to 12 inch pot, with 4 to 6 hours of light and consistently moist soil, it becomes one of the most productive low-maintenance crops you can grow. One more trick. Walk into any grocery store produce section and you'll find living herb pots, basil, mint, cilantro for $2 to $3. Those pots are crammed with dozens of individual seedlings packed together to look full on the shelf. Buy one, pull the root mass apart into 8 to 10 individual plants, and transplant each into its own container. You just turned a $3 purchase into a 10-plant herb garden. And when the season ends, don't let your basil harvest end with it. Blend the leaves with olive oil and freeze the mixture in ice cube trays. You get a year-round supply of fresh basil flavor pulled from a plant you grew yourself. A seasonal crop becomes a permanent kitchen asset. That is the kind of thinking this channel was built for. Crop number 2. Cherry tomatoes? If herbs are the highest return per square inch, this is the highest return per pot. Conventional cherry tomatoes retail at around $1.50 per pound. Organic, $3.69, 146% premium. A single, well-managed container plant yields 15 to 30 pounds from midsummer through the first frost. Retail replacement value, $22.50 to $110.70 organic from one container. Most people leave that money on the table. Here's exactly why. The number one container tomato mistake is pot size. People grab a 3 or 5 gallon bucket, drop a plant in, and wonder why it stalls in August. If you're growing standard indeterminate cherry varieties, the ones that keep fruiting continuously all season, those need 10 to 20 gallons to sustain their root system through peak summer heat. Compact dwarf and patio varieties can work in a smaller 3 to 5 gallon container, but the continuous high-yield indeterminate types will stall without the extra root space. When roots hit the container wall and run out of room, the plant signals itself that the season is over. Sunlight is the second half of that equation. Tomatoes need 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight daily. Confirm your container position delivers that before you commit to your setup. Get the pot size and the sunlight right together, and this plant has the foundation to deliver a full season of continuous production. Second technique most people miss entirely. When you transplant, strip the lower leaves and bury the stem 2/3 of the way down into the potting mix. Tomatoes develop roots along any buried portion of their stem. You're manufacturing a dramatically larger root system on day one, one that pulls more water, more nutrients, and supports far heavier yields than a shallow planted seedling ever could. Third, and this is the one that blindsides the most growers' calcium and consistency. Irregular watering, letting the container dry completely, then flooding it disrupts internal calcium transport. The result is blossom end rot. A dark sunken patch that forms on the bottom of your fruit and destroys it before it ripens. Fix. Mix bone meal or dolomite directly into your potting medium at planting time. Then, keep the soil consistently moist. Consistency is what keeps calcium moving to the fruit. If you want to remove that variable entirely, self-watering planters with built-in water reservoirs deliver moisture directly to the root zone through capillary action, maintaining even soil moisture through the peak summer heat. For varieties, go indeterminate. Super Sweet 100, Sun Gold, Chocolate Cherry, Pink Bumblebee. These produce hundreds of fruits continuously across the season. Determinates, dump everything at once and shut down. For maximum grocery replacement value, indeterminate is the only choice. Last, as the season progresses, small shoots emerge in the joint between the main stem and each leaf branch. Those are suckers. Left alone, they become full competing stems that steal energy from fruit production. Pinch them out regularly. Every sucker you remove is yield you're protecting. Crop number 3. Mixed salad greens. Lowest barrier to entry on this entire list, and one of the most aggressive retail markups in the produce aisle. Conventional mixed greens cost $2.62 for 10 to 12 ounces. Organic, $5.82 for the same amount, 122% premium. And once that bag is in your refrigerator, it is already breaking down. Salad greens suffer rapid cellular respiration and moisture loss from the moment they are cut and transported. By the time they reach your kitchen, the window is already closing. You are paying premium prices for something that loses value in transit. A $5 seed packet produces up to 20 times the volume of a store-bought bag across a single growing season. 20 times. And every leaf comes off the plant minutes before it hits your plate. Zero transport decay, zero spoilage, maximum nutrient density. The technique that makes this work is cut and come again harvesting. Here's exactly how. Salad greens need 4 to 6 hours of direct sunlight daily, less demanding than most crops on this list, which makes them ideal for partially shaded balconies and covered patios where full sun crops would not produce reliably. Sow seeds densely in a shallow container, a pot at least 6 inches wide and 6 to 10 inches deep. That is all the space these roots need. Here is how to get the most from it. Once outer leaves reach 3 to 4 inches, shear the foliage off 1 inch above the soil line. Leave the central growing crown completely untouched. That crown is the engine. As long as it remains intact, the plant regenerates a full new set of leaves ready for the next harvest. 1 container. Multiple successive harvests. Across the entire spring and autumn growing windows. Best varieties for this system: Buttercrunch, Red Salad Bowl, Black-Seeded Simpson, Oakleaf. Loose leaf types only, not head lettuces. Head varieties need to form a complete structure before harvest and don't regenerate the same way. 2 things determine whether this system runs or collapses. Temperature. Lettuce and spinach perform best at 45 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Push past that upper threshold and the plant bolts, flower stalk shoots up, leaves turn bitter overnight, harvest window closes. Countermove. As temperatures climb, shift containers to morning sun and afternoon shade. That single adjustment extends your productive season by weeks. Nitrogen. Leaf production is nitrogen hungry. Amend your potting mix with blood meal, earthworm castings, or composted manure at planting time. Nitrogen-deficient plants produce pale, slow-growing leaves that never reach harvestable size on schedule. One bonus technique. The bases of store-bought lettuce heads and the white-rooted ends of green onions can be replanted directly into your containers. They sprout new edible growth within days. Zero cost. Zero seed purchase. Something growing in every container at all times. Quick pause. If you're getting real value from this, and I hope you are, smash that like button right now and hit subscribe if you haven't already. It takes 2 seconds and it seriously helps this information reach more people who need it. We're halfway through the list, and the next 3 crops have some of the most specific and counterintuitive growing techniques we've covered yet. Let's keep going. Crop number 4. Sweet bell peppers and colored peppers. This is the one I talked about in the beginning. Over 125% retail premium in the organic category. Conventional, $1.08 per pepper. Organic, $2.50 per single fruit. A well-managed container plant produces 15 to 25 of them across a season. A retail replacement value of $16.20 to $62.50 organic. And here's the part that makes this work in a pot, specifically something most gardeners never consider. In ground-level beds, peppers struggle in northern climates because spring soil stays cold too long and delays the entire season. In a container, the potting mix warms dramatically faster. Dark-colored plastic or glazed ceramic pots absorb solar radiation directly and heat the root zone weeks ahead of schedule. That's the $15 pot doing real work. You're not fighting the season. You're manufacturing a microclimate that a flat garden bed simply cannot give you. Set up your container correctly from the start. Minimum 3 to 5 gallons, at least 12 inches deep. Peppers need 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight daily. Position your container to hit that threshold before anything else. If you're using a long planter box, space plants 12 to 18 inches apart. Root competition and blocked light are the 2 fastest ways to cut your yield in half before the season even hits its stride. Beyond the basic container setup, 2 additional factors are worth knowing depending on your conditions. If you're in a colder climate, where temperatures regularly drop below 50 degrees Fahrenheit at night, position your container against a brick wall. Brick absorbs heat during the day and radiates it back at night, a passive heat buffer that protects against the cold snaps that stunt growth and delay your harvest. Peppers demand consistent moisture and are susceptible to foliar disease from overhead watering. A self-watering planter handles both issues reliably across the full growing season. 2 management rules. First, when the plant hits 8 inches tall, pinch the growing tip. Same principle as the herbs break apical dominance, force a bushy multi-branching structure that can support a heavy fruit load. Second, never feed peppers high nitrogen fertilizer. High nitrogen drives lush, green growth at the direct expense of flowers and fruit. You want a liquid feed high in potassium and phosphorus, a fish and seaweed blend with a low nitrogen ratio applied every 2 weeks once flowering begins. Get those 2 things right, and this plant produces from midsummer through the first frost. Crop number 5, climbing pole beans. Most spatially efficient crop on this list when you measure output against footprint. A single 5-gallon container, or a rectangular planter, 2 to 3 feet long, 10 inches wide, and 10 inches deep, supports up to 3 climbing plants. Pole beans need 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight daily. Give them that and they climb 6 to 12 feet vertically up a trellis, up stakes, or straight up a balcony railing. Whatever vertical structure you have available, they will use it. And unlike bush beans, which dump their entire harvest in 2 weeks, and Finnish pole beans produce continuously for up to 2 months. The mechanism is simple. Regular harvesting signals the plant to keep producing. Stop picking, and production stops. It's a direct feedback loop. 2 non-negotiable rules. Build your trellis or install your stakes before you plant. Inserting supports after germination damages the root system and sets the plant back hard. Structure first. Seed second. And beans do not tolerate transplanting. Their roots are fragile. Direct sow into the final container once soil temperatures reach at least 55 degrees Fahrenheit. To accelerate germination, soak seeds in lukewarm water for 4 to 12 hours before planting. Then here's the step most growers skip entirely. Lightly nick the seed coat on the side opposite the hilum. That's called scarification. It opens the outer shell just enough to speed up moisture absorption and shave days off your germination window. Then orient the seed with the hilum, the small scar on the seed coat facing downward. Direct path into the soil from day 1. Consistent water is what keeps this crop producing through its full 2-month window. Pole beans have shallow roots and need steady moisture, especially during flowering and pod formation, when any interruption to the water supply directly reduces yield. On hot, windy days, the large leaf canopy transpires rapidly, and daily watering may be necessary. Always water directly at the base of the plant, and keep the leaves dry. Wet foliage on beans invites fungal disease and cuts your production window short. The same self-watering planter recommended for tomatoes and peppers works equally well here, and is worth the investment for a crop that needs that level of consistent moisture to deliver a full 2 months of production. The numbers? Pole beans retail at $2.58 per 12 ounces. Conventional, $4.41. Organic, a 71% premium. A single container running the full 2-month window yields 5 to 10 pounds. Replacement value, $17.20 to $58.80. Organic. From a low-cost container in a pack of seeds. Crop number 6. Day-neutral strawberries. And here is the mistake I told you about. Fresh strawberries carry the highest retail premium of any crop on this list, 157% above conventional pricing. Conventional strawberries cost $2.50 per pound. Organic, $4 per 6 ounces. And they are among the most perishable items in commercial agriculture. Commercial strawberries are harvested before peak ripeness to survive transport, which means the sugar production and flavor development that only happens on the vine never fully occurs. A container-grown strawberry ripens completely before you pick it. That is not a small difference. A container plant yields 1.5 to 3 pounds of fruit across the season, a replacement value of $16 to $32. Strawberries are not a volume crop. They are a precision crop. You are replacing some of the most expensive and most perishable produce in the store with fruit that is riper and sweeter than anything on a supermarket shelf. The value is in what you are actually getting, not just the dollar figure. Here's the mistake most growers make. They plant June-bearing varieties because that's what nurseries stock most heavily. June-bearing plants produce one large harvest early in the season, then spend the remaining months generating vegetative runners, completely inefficient in a container. What you want are day-neutral cultivars: Albion, Seascape, Everest. These flower and fruit continuously from spring through the first frost. Compact growth habit, minimal runners. Maximum continuous yield. Container setup, at least 8 to 10 inches deep and a minimum of 1.5 to 2 gallons in volume. Strawberries are shallow-rooted. They need 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight daily to produce sweet fruit. Positioning your container in full sun is not optional. It is the difference between a productive plant and a disappointing one. Now, the critical detail: crown depth. The crown is the central junction where roots meet leaf stems. It must sit precisely at soil level. Bury it, and it rots. Expose it, and the roots dry out and die. Exactly at the surface. Get this wrong and the plant will not survive its first 2 weeks, regardless of how well you do everything else. Apply a thin layer of straw or bark mulch across the container surface. It protects developing fruit from soil splash, suppresses weeds, retains moisture, and prevents decay at the soil line. And remove any runners that form promptly. Every runner is energy redirected away from fruit. Cut them. Keep the harvest coming. So, there you have it. 6 crops, 6 containers, and a grocery bill that finally starts working for you. None of this requires a yard. None of it requires expensive equipment. It requires the right information applied. The knowledge has always existed. It did not disappear. It got buried under a system that profits when you keep buying instead of growing. That is what this channel exists to reverse. Here's how to choose where to start. If your space gets 4 to 6 hours of light, start with mint or salad greens. Both are built for lower light conditions where full sun crops would fail. If you are in a colder climate where spring soil stays cold too long, peppers in a dark-colored container will outperform the same peppers grown in the ground. If you have a railing or vertical space and 6 to 8 hours of sun, pole beans give you the most output per square inch of floor space. If you want the highest financial return per container and you have the sun for it, basil is the answer. And if you have full sun and want maximum fruit volume from a single container, cherry tomatoes give you the best yield to investment ratio on the list. Pick your entry point, get one pot producing, then add another. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment right now and tell me which crop on this list are you starting with. I read every single one and I'm genuinely curious where you're beginning. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it and I hope you got a ton of value from this video. See you on the next one, and remember, information is only truly useful when you apply it. I hope you do. Good luck from the Forgotten Harvest Vault, your one stop for grabbing hidden and forgotten information they don't want you to have. Subscribe, share what you learned, and I'll see you when the next door opens. Take care of yourself out there.